Hi, I'm Lori Turner, and I'm the Sales Support Manager for Boisset Wine Living at Home. And I'm here with Brian Maloney, the winemaker for DeLoach Vineyards.
Hi, everyone.
We are here in the brand new Appellation Room, surrounded by profiles of all the vineyard designate growers, as well as soil samples from the vineyards. And we're here to talk to you about your May Wine Club shipments. So the first wine in your shipment is the Stubbs Vineyards 2012 Chardonnay. What would you have to say about this one, Brian?
Well, the Stubbs Vineyard is farmed by Tom and Mary Stubbs down in the northern portion of Marin County. It's just west of the town of Petaluma. It's actually not far from where I grew up, so anytime I get to work from grapes in the neighborhood where I'm from, I'm always excited to. It's a really cold little valley where they're located. It actually opens up all the way out towards Tamales Bay, and in most vintages, this is a very high acid, very lean, crisp Chardonnay. In 2012, though, we had one of those growing seasons that was, kind of blessed by God. Everything came in and it was just absolutely beautiful. We didn't have to worry about the challenges we often see in cold growing seasons out in this area. We didn't have the botrytis pressure. We didn't have the rain at harvest. So it was really a nice, great year, really, for this vineyard. And what you see in the glass is the results of that. You have a wine that has a lot of richness to it, still retains that nice natural acidity, but because of the barrel fermentation we do and the wee stirring, it really softens it up and I think makes for a fantastic Chardonnay, especially for those who are looking for a little bit more of the riper style. So aromatically, you have those barrel spices, you get a hint of apricot, you have some of the citrus elements that come out from the cooler vineyards we work with. Just really classic cold climate Chardonnay. And then on the palate, you see how a warmer vintage in a cold site really benefits it. Mm-hmm. You have that really, that mouth fillingness, the way it spreads across your palate, and just that lingering hint of maybe just a touch of malolactic there, that little bit of butter on the back end and a little bit of toast. Some people like their Chardonnay with butter and toast, and this is a good one for them. So cheers, enjoy.
Cheers. That's a great description, not only in the color and the flavor. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Lori.
Mm-hmm. The next wine in your shipment is the 2009 Massout Vineyard Pinot Noir. Brian, what can you tell me about this wine?
Thanks, Lori. Well, the Massout Vineyard is one of my favorites. It's farmed by two of my friends, Jake and Ben Fetzer. Got to know them really well over the years that we've worked with them, starting in 2005. They have a fantastic site, originally planted to biodynamic agriculture, one of the first sites in California planted to according to biodynamics. So makes it one of those interesting, very into nature, very integrated into its place. Where Massout is located is really on this kind of borderline of warm and cold. It's right at the end of a valley called Reeves Canyon, which empties out into the Anderson Valley, a very cold growing location. It gets a lot of cold air that flows through there. But then where that opens out too is the Ukiah Valley, much warmer location, much hotter. Interior warms up during the summer especially, it can be quite hot. And so this vineyard is very much, sensitive to both of those pressures and makes it a challenging farming location for those guys. But what we see here is really an opulent version of Pinot Noir. It's really on the edge where Pinot Noir still gets ripe without getting overripe. And so what you get with this wine is that kind of plum skin, that really rich, dense, jammy flavor characteristics. You get a little bit of barrel spice on this as well. It's a 2009. It's had a long time to integrate. Just, one of those complex noses. Often people ask me what I smell in Pinot Noirs, and there's some simple fruit characteristics I can pull out and some spices, but this is one of those ones that kind of goes beyond description. And then on the palate, it's just like a big soft pillow. I don't know how else to describe that, but just you want to sink into it and just enjoy glass after glass. So enjoy. Cheers. Thank you guys for ordering the Massout Pinot Noir.
Thank you for making this one. The next wine in your shipment is the 2008 Green Valley Pinot Noir. Brian, how about this wine?
Well, the Green Valley is a special location for us. This is the first location outside of the Russian River Valley that DeLoach really explored for Pinot Noir. And I say outside because when we first started working with the Green Valley, it was a distinct appellation separate from the Russian River. It's now actually been incorporated entirely within the Russian River Valley. So it's a little bit of one of those explorations that I think has kind of come to fruition in the sense that, other people have recognized how it is a distinct sub-appellation of the Russian River. The soil types out there are all sandstone based, very well drained, and just makes for fantastic growing conditions for the grapes. The 2008 is coming from 4 vineyards we work with. The 3 classic Green Valley vineyards for us at least are the Ferguson Vineyard, the Gibberti Vineyard, and the Swicegood Vineyard. But in 2008 we had a chance to work with another small site not far from Gibberti called the Von Weidlich Vineyard. It's one of those historic sites originally planted to Zinfandel way back in 1905 or so. And Robert von Weidlich, the proprietor, who's since passed away, he did a little bit of a planting of Pinot Noir there that we were able to work with and really see it come to fruition and add an extra element of dimension to this wine that I think is really rewarding, as you see right now. The 2008 vintage was a warm year, very short, truncated harvest. We had very hard frosts in April, basically eliminated most of those primary buds that had budded out before about April 15th, actually, ironically. You could say it was a little bit of a tax day cut. Everything after that, though, really grew at an accelerated rate. We had warm summers, we had plenty of water in the ground, and just a lot of concentration ended up in this vintage. And I think you see this in this 2008. Right now, aromatically, you're starting to get those secondary characteristics that fine Pinot Noir regions really show. And so this is where we start to move into those elements of mushrooms and things like that starting to develop out. There is still a fruit component to this wine that's quite pretty. It's kind of those small blue fruits, blueberries, currants, things like that. But really that mushroom element is starting to show and just makes it really fascinating to smell. And then on the palate, you see why people love the Green Valley.
Oh, yeah.
The definition it gets, the acidity that is nicely balanced all the way through. This is a wine that, it's one of those 30-second, 40-second finishers, you take a sip and it just keeps on going and going.
Keeps on going, yeah.
And it's a lot of fun to work with grapes like that and have them, to see them in a vintage like this where they're elevated up into just a fantastic wine that ages quite well as well. So,
what would you recommend pairing with this?
To me, Pinot Noir from the Green Valley always goes best with lamb, but I know that can be a little bit of a sensitive subject for people. Also, just a mushroom sauce on pasta or something like that. Maybe just a touch of cream, not too much, will really work well with this. And, it's a fairly flexible wine, but to me it always comes back to, little lamb chops just would be absolutely delicious.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Cheers. The final wine in the shipment is the 2012 Santa Lucia Pinot, which is a JC's Picks exclusive to Wine Living, and we just released it this month. Brian, what can you say about this wine?
Well, it really is a JC's pick. John Charles is one of those individuals who is just fascinated with terroir. And in 2012, we've been working with a little bit of fruit out of Monterey County, but he really wanted to go to the top, and so we started working with a vineyard called Apex in the Santa Lucia Highlands, and that's where this comes from. And so as part of that exploration, we looked at some of the best growers in the area, and we worked with the Francione family, who are very famous for some other vineyards in the area. The Apex Vineyard is a younger site at higher elevation than most of their other sites, so a little bit cooler climate up there, a little bit more wind exposed, but we really are pretty excited about the qualities we saw in this first vintage that we worked with in 2012. This is all open top fermented. We do the classic hand punch downs with our Pinot Noir, so really, trying to gently coax those flavors out. And I think you see a distinct, different flavor profile with this Santa Lucia that isn't common across the rest of our Pinot Noirs. So if you get a chance to get this in your shipment, I think you're pretty lucky because you see an element from a different terroir, and that's, as anyone who's a wine geek knows, when you start exploring different terroirs, that's where all the fun comes out. On the nose of this wine, to me, I get some of those, really kind of rich fruit characteristics, but also a characteristic that I find very common in Santa Lucia, which is orange peel. Just that candied orange peel element is something that I see in many different ones, and I think it's part of the interaction you get between a warm summer sun as well as having that very cold wind that's coming through the Salinas Valley, cooling everything off, and it makes for fascinating growing conditions for these grapes, but also fascinating wines for the winemaker to work with, because these grapes come in and there's all this flavor, all this density of color and texture and everything, but also really vibrant acidity. I think this wine's a great example of that. And then on the palate, it's distinctly different than what we see in the Russian River Valley. We have a tannin structure that to me is a little bit more velvety, but also a little bit more stretched, for lack of a better word. It really envelopes all across your tongue, but doesn't quite have the same mid-palate intensity that we see in the Russian River, but has a lot of richness in different dimensions. So I hope you guys enjoy. It was a lot of fun working with this vineyard, and hopefully we'll have a little 2013 to share with you guys as well.
There you go.
Cheers.
Would this be a wine you'd recommend pouring now or cellaring for later?
To me, this 2012 Santa Lucia is very much a wine to enjoy right now. I don't think it quite has the same ageability like the 2008 Green Valley has, where you have that density and you have that structure to really help it lay out for a long time. But I think this is definitely a wine that'll reward itself, over the next several years. It's not necessarily one you gotta, pop and pour.
Got it. Well, I say pop and pour because it tastes fabulous. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Lori.
Well, thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Brian, for joining us today.
Thanks, Lori, for sharing the wines with everyone. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, and we want to invite you all to come join us here at DeLoach Vineyards and see the new Appellation Room, as well as a lot of other new experiences that they've recently released. So thank you, and enjoy.
Cheers. Enjoy, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.